putting troops into a city, have a very clear idea of what he's trying to accomplish.
In 1942, Stalingrad is not part of Hitler's original plan for the southern area of the Soviet Union and his drive to seize the oil fields of the Caucasus. It is a year since Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa against the Soviet Union. Initially, Barbarossa sweeps all before it. But in the winter snows, it stops, and Stalin counterattacks. In the summer of 1942, however, Operation Blue, Hitler's renewed offensive toward the vital oil area of the Caucasus, goes well. And this apparent success, apparent because the Soviets have actually withdrawn to avoid mass losses, leads Hitler to change his plan. He will not simply head for the oil fields. Instead, his forces will take the whole of the Caucasus. And to prevent a buildup of Soviet forces there, he will take and destroy Stalingrad. But it is only now, when the 1942 summer campaign appears to go well, that Hitler changes his mind and decides to take the city.
There was a lack of clarity in Hitler's strategic thinking in 1942. The Battle of Stalingrad was really fought as an afterthought at the end of that year. Hitler really wanted to push to the south into the Caucasian mountains, to open up the gateway to the Middle East, and importantly to gain the oil.
But there is another reason behind Hitler's decision to attack Stalingrad, and it's personal. Stalingrad was Stalin's city. He had commanded Tsaritsyn, as it was then called, for 4 vital months during the Civil War of 1919 to 1921. In 1928, he had it renamed in his own honor. In the summer of 1942, as Soviet resistance to the German advance collapses, he decrees that Stalingrad will be a fortress from which there will be no retreat. And Hitler orders that the city must fall. So Hitler's decision to attack Stalingrad is partly personal. Dictator against dictator. In Vietnam in 1968, General Giap is clear about his objective. Giap's overall objective is simple: expel a foreign invader and unite Vietnam under a communist flag. But in planning his Tet Offensive, Giap has 3 immediate objectives. He hopes that the attacks will lead to a popular uprising against the Saigon-based government and the Americans. He wishes to terrorize those who support the South. His assault troops will therefore be followed in by assassination squads, who will murder teachers, government officials, and anyone else viewed as a danger to the communist takeover. But the third objective is the most important of all. In the United States, anti-war demonstrators are already marching on the streets, and the North Vietnamese are becoming aware of it. Giap hopes his plan will deal enough of a defeat to the Americans to put pressure on President Lyndon Johnson to end the war or withdraw his troops. Unlike Hitler at Stalingrad, therefore, Giap has a very clear objective, both short-term military and long-term political. Now, a quarter century apart, it's time for German General von Paulus and North Vietnamese General Giap to unleash their attacks. In mid-August 1942, General Friedrich von Paulus prepares to let loose Hitler's assault on the Soviet city of Stalingrad. The tanks of his 16th Panzer Division, the spearhead of his 6th Army, cross the River Don to the west of Stalingrad and punch a hole in the Soviet defenses. They are only 35 miles from the city. In January 1968, North Vietnam's General Vo Nguyen Giap prepares to unleash his Tet Offensive against South Vietnam's capital Saigon and key provincial towns and cities, which so far have not seen war. He is well prepared. he has brought munitions over the border from Cambodia and stored them in secret tunnel complexes. On the eve of Tet, his troops infiltrate the Saigon suburbs and assemble in specially prepared safe houses. Communist agents, often women and children, smuggle the troops' weapons through the checkpoints which ring the city. Giap cannot bring in heavier weapons, like artillery pieces, so his troops will capture these from South Vietnamese positions and arsenals. Finally, everything is ready. Now, both generals must launch their attacks and face the second requirement in the battle plan for urban warfare: speed and surprise. The initial assault must be fast and unexpected to prevent the defenders from preparing and building up their forces. At Stalingrad, surprise is less important than the speed of the initial attack. When Soviet resistance to the German advance collapses that summer, Stalin expects an attack on the city. For General von Paulus, therefore, the vital element is speed of attack before Stalingrad's defenses can be strengthened. On August 23rd, he launches his attack. Squadrons of German bombers and dive bombers begin their devastation. Tanks race for the city. At night, the sky glows. When morning comes, 40,000 inhabitants of Stalingrad are dead, many of them women and children trying to flee on ferries across the Volga, easy prey to the screaming Stukas. Smoke obscures the sun. In the north, German tanks reach the northern suburb of Rhinop on the cliffs above the Volga. Von Paulus seems on course for victory. But thanks to Hitler, his attack has already been weakened, and his battle plan for urban warfare is in danger. August 1942. German General Friedrich von Paulus launches his attack against the Soviet city of Stalingrad. But his plans are already in danger. A month earlier, confident that Stalingrad will fall easily, Hitler transfers 4th Panzer Army to the south. 2 weeks later, he changes his mind. But the assault force for Stalingrad is fatally weakened. The tank units attacking the south of the city are under strength and their crews exhausted. Now they are hemmed in by ravines that crisscross the area. Only on the last day of August do they break through the outer Soviet defenses and advance toward the heart of the city. Now, according to the plan, von Paulus's infantry will strike between the two German armored thrusts and push the Soviets into the Volga. But the German advance has left large Soviet forces untouched to the north. And von Paulus is only too aware of the danger of attacks to his flank and rear. He delays. It's not until September 13th, 21 days after the first advance, that he pushes forward. But the delay has lost him the essential requirement of speed, and given the Soviet defenders vital time. In Vietnam, as U.S. forces increase their pressure, General Giap needs both surprise and speed for his Tet offensive. He almost throws both away. American intelligence learns of a meeting of the top North Vietnamese leadership, but they don't know it is to approve Giap's new battle plan. As U.S. forces seek to tighten the screw, Giap's Viet Cong launch a series of attacks against small urban targets. The attacks are outside their normal tactics. Giap is practicing urban assault, but it's almost a giveaway. Captured documents reveal parts, but only parts, of a plan to the U.S. generals. It's clear, however, the North Vietnamese are planning something big. The pieces of the puzzle are there, but American and South Vietnamese intelligence do not put the complete picture together. Giap seems to have achieved surprise. Giap also increases Viet Cong activity in the north to lure U.S. commanders into shifting more troops there, away from cities like Saigon. But Major General Frederick Weyand, commanding U.S. field forces near Saigon, is suspicious. He recommends that troops be pulled back from the north. U.S. strength around Saigon is doubled. By the eve of Tet, American Commander-in-Chief Westmoreland is so concerned that he requests the South Vietnamese to cancel the coming Tet ceasefire with the Viet Cong. But U.S. intelligence still hasn't put all the pieces together. As firecrackers explode in the night sky, General Giap launches his attack. In Saigon, his forces will target 6 primary objectives: the headquarters of the South Vietnamese Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Independence Palace, where South Vietnamese President Thieu has his office, Tan Son Nhut Air Base, the Vietnamese Navy headquarters, the National Broadcasting Station. His 6th target has no military value whatsoever, but in terms of his political objective, it's key: the American Embassy in Saigon. At 2:31 in the morning, a spearhead unit of Viet Cong approached the compound